Hi everyone, welcome to today's BIMCO Bites on shared material libraries. A common question we have with managing Revit materials is how can they be coordinated between project files? Today we'll be going through the basics of setting up your own shared material library and managing your material assets for your projects and your company. That includes creating a shared material library, adding and removing materials from it, maintaining and updating materials, some of the tips and tricks there, as well as sharing custom material assets between project files. So today we're going to be operating out of the materials dialog. So we'll go into the Manage tab and over to Materials. Okay, so by default, your materials browser should look something like this. The shared libraries section is located down the bottom here, which I just collapsed, which you can expand and expand the home to see what shared materials libraries that you have. By default, you should have a favorites section and an AEC materials section or something similar that's built in. At the top here, this is our standard materials browser. This contains the materials that are within our project that we're in. Down below, these are our shared material libraries. The AEC materials library contains the materials that have been installed as part of Revit when you set it up. If you hover over that, you can see that they're sitting in the program files. These will be on everyone's PC, provided they installed the appropriate materials libraries when they set up Revit. Ones down below are the custom ones, and they can be saved to any drive or network location at your choosing. To create your own shared materials library, we'll go down to the bottom here, click on the user-defined materials library, and we'll go create new library. Now, if one already exists on your server, you can go open existing library and navigate to it. For today, we're going to be creating a new library for this demonstration. Okay, next up, you'll be wanting to specify the location of your library. Now, this should exist somewhere on a common location and our shared materials library. Okay, so we're going to place this shared material library here. Now, for today's exercise, we're going to emulate a project material library. So I'm just going to name that with a default sort of number and naming convention. The file extension for material library files are ADSKLIB. Okay, so that's now saved that material library. At the moment, it exists with nothing in it, but you will want to create some categories to place your materials to have a bit of organization for your material library. So you can do that by right-clicking on the material library and selecting Create Category. Now, you'd be wanting to mimic the materials library as it stands in Revit itself, if possible. So you might want something like metal, create another category, glass, create another category, masonry, etc. Okay. This just allows you to have a bit more organization in and around your material library. Any project template that's been set up by a BIM manager will generally have these already set up in your project template, and you may use these as a good starting point. Okay, Autodesk defines some as well. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and create a material. So we're going to create a material from scratch, and we're going to put it into our new library. So let's go to create a new material. We're going to name it. And today we're going to be making some masonry offset pavers. which is what we're going to also call our appearance asset. Okay. Now for the image, we're going to select the image texture, and we're going to navigate to an image that we'd like to use. You may have some set up for your project. So we have a project material assets library here, or you may have these on your server location. So I'm going to navigate to one. Okay. So let's navigate to our server location, which has all of our materials. We'll select for this particular one some entry pavers. Click OK. There's our material, seemingly repeats. And then if we'd like to add that material to our shared library, you can do it in a couple of ways. So at the moment, we've only created this material in our project environment. All materials must be edited within the project environment. The libraries cannot be edited directly. Instead, you make your changes within your project environment, then you push your material into the library. So in this case, I'm going to push it by either right-clicking on it and going to add to project library and picking the particular category or even the top level, or you could even click and drag that across whilst it's activated, and that will bring that material into the shared material library. You can select that material. As I said before, it's now read-only. You cannot change that one. So by selecting this one down below, we've actually selected the one within the library. You can see all the parameters there. Now, we don't have a surface pattern applied at this point in time, which we will do in a moment. Okay, now if we'd like to update that material in our library, as I said, you do need to update it in your project first. Now, if your material does not exist within your project, you can bring it down into your project. So let's actually go across and grab one from one of these other locations. And to bring that into my project, this Moroccan tile, we can click this little button here, adds material to document. There's also a second button, which is add material to document and display it in the editor. The editor's this portion of our window over here. And that's a handy one to be able to just start editing it straight away. So I'll click that, that's into my project. I can now go through and make changes as required. Now I'm just going to go back to my paving. My offset masonry pavers, because I realized that I hadn't added a fill pattern to it. So I'm going to select that material there. I'm going to go to the surface pattern, and we're going to go to foreground pattern, find the pattern that we would like. We've got some pavers. Okay. And we'll bring that into our project, our project material. And then if we'd like to update the material, which is based within the library, we can do that same thing where we drag and drop, or we right click it. Now that will come up with a dialog which says this material already exists within the library. What would you like to do? Replace it or keep both? So you can see there's a disconnect between the two materials. You must overwrite them either to the material library or from the material library back to your project. They're not connected and synced. So I'm going to go replace. Now select that material and you can see it now has that updated surface pattern. Important thing to note with surface patterns is that they will not be, they're not stored with the material itself. So that fill pattern needs to already exist within your project if you would like to import that material into your project and have that same pattern. So for that, you will need to transfer standards and bring in all of the fill patterns that you require, probably from your template or some repository. And your library should always have approved fill patterns from your template or from your project repository to make this possible. If this pattern definition does not exist within your project, when you push it, it will just have a pattern of none. Okay. And finally, we're going to go through sharing custom material assets. Now, I've created this material here with a custom asset, which is this image here, which is saved on my server, which others may or may not have access to. Now, one robust way to ensure that others have access to the image is actually to pick an image from the AEC materials selection. You can see if I click on one of these, they actually have appearance assets like this, which are located on a C drive program files. And as I said before, this will be common to everyone. They should have these installed, provided they installed the material libraries when they installed Revit. So using the AEC materials, which are locked off, their image assets, you shouldn't have any issues where material images are missing or disappeared. If I go ahead and have a look at some of these others, Moroccan. Okay, so we brought this one in before. At the moment, it's seeming like it's okay, and that's because I have access to this drive location. You can see that this is actually saved on a SharePoint location. Now, if the other end user was to not be me, it would obviously have a different username path there, and that would result in an error where the material definition wouldn't show up correctly. Now, to resolve that issue, let's have a look here, what we got. Okay. To resolve that issue, you can specify a path that ensures that these assets can be found. Now, this can be done by using the additional render appearance path within your options. So what you'll be wanting to do is, for anyone who goes to open up this project, their PC will be trying to look for this location. It will not be able to find it. So what they'll need to do is go into File, Options, Rendering, and then specify additional render appearance paths. And you can do so by clicking Add Value, navigating to the location that the project has this asset. So because this project is on OneDrive, you can actually go through and specify the location. Click OK. And then this path will be searched first for when the materials browser goes looking for that particular material JPEG. Okay, so it's important to note that these images as well are not saved within the Autodesk shared libraries. The images must be able to be found at a shared or common path. Finally, a good way to manage your materials is through ACC, Autodesk Construction Cloud. Now, you can actually specify a common workspace location, a custom workspace location that will mean that there is no drive letter at the beginning of your there is no username within the file path. So again, the problem with these is it's got my name in the file path. So if you go over to ACC, we've got a project that we've set up, which is BIMCO Material Assets. Within here, we have our library of shared and common materials. And you can see these are just images, which is just uploaded to ACC. I then will need to go to Desktop Connector, go to Help, and then change the workspace. Now, the default workspace for Desktop Connector is, again, a username path, which is not going to, it's going to have the same issues as Dropbox or OneDrive. So if we click that, it will just say, okay, you'll need to deselect all your projects, then restart Desktop Connector, and then there's a few instructions on what you need to do there. But what this allows you to do is to specify a drive, whether that be a server location or a local drive, where it will be common as the path for any user who jumps onto the project. So it could be M for materials, and everyone has a drive mapped to their PC called M materials. Therefore, they won't have any issues with materials not being able to find their path, provided that they have Desktop Connector, it's logged in, and they have also mapped their own workspace location to M drive.